Okay, we're going to start with lesson 12 today. Our target is looking at divisibility rules for 3 and 6. We're going to focus on that part for the number sense portion first. So if I'm looking at this first part, what are the divisibility rules for 3 and 6? Well, that's what we're going to kind of get into. And so looking at the rule for 3. We learned the divisibility rules for 2, 5, and 10. Now we're going to learn 2 more. So let's look at divisibility rule for just 3's, okay? The numbers in this chart are examples of numbers that are all divisible by 3. So we've got 84, we've got 114, we've got 261, we've got 339, 3003, and 56,112, okay? So if I look at the next one, we can divide a number evenly by 3 if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So let's look at the number 84 and see how that works, okay? So if I have the number 84, so here's my number 84. Oh, why isn't this working? Right there. And I'm going to take the number 8 and I'm going to add it to 4, and my sum is 12. Now in my head, I want to think, is 12 divisible by 3? Does that work? Can I do that? And the answer would be, yes, we can. Okay. We know that 12 can be divided by 3, and that is 4. So then I know that 84 can be divided by 3 evenly. 3 will go into 8 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. I subtract. I have 8 and I'm taking away 6, and that gives me 2. And I bring down my 4. So now I have to ask myself how many 3's will go into 24. Well, I know 3 times 8 is 24. So I subtract 4 minus 4 is 0, 2 minus 2 is 0. So 3 will go into 84 28 times. So it will go in there evenly, okay? So let's click ahead here. And they would do it in a calculator, and the calculator answer would give us the same thing that we just had before, which was 28. Okay, now if I'm looking at the divisibility rule again for 3, and I have the number 56,112, same thing on this one. I am going to take and add 5 plus 6 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 5, or equals 15. Then I'm going to ask myself, well, can 15 be divided by 3? Question mark. And I think most of you know that yes, 3 will go into 15 how many times? 5 times. Okay. So then I know if I were to take 56,112 and divide it by 3, I know 3 will go into 5 one time. 3 times 1 is 3. And I'm going to subtract. I get 2. Bring down my 6. Oops. 3 will go into 26 again 8 times. 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to bring down my 1. I know 3 goes into 21 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. Ooh, I'm going to run out of room. Bring down my 1. 3 will not fit into just 1, so I have to put my placeholder here. I got to put a 0, and 3 times 0 is 0. I'm going to subtract, and I get 1, and then I'm going to bring down this 2. How many 3's will go into 12? I know 3 times 4 is 12, and that will give me 0. Sorry, it was a little lopsided going down. So my answer for this one would be 18,704. All right, and that's the same answer they get when they clunk it into the calculator. Okay, now how about the divisibility rules for 6's? Okay, we're going to look at that and see what the rule is for 6. So first of all, I'm going to refresh our brains with the rule for 2's, okay? When we're looking at the divisibility rule for 2's, no, Lucy. Ryan! That's enough. This is gonna suck. Okay, so when we look at our divisibility rule for 6, I'm going to remember my rule for 2. So the divisibility rule for 2 was if it's divisible by 2, it ends in an even number. Even number, okay? And we just talked about if it's divisible by 3, any number divisible by 3, you add their digits. And if the sum of their digits is divisible by 3, then that whole number itself is divisible by 3, okay? Now when we're looking at 6, divisibility rules for 6, it has to work for the rule for 2, and it also has to work for the rule for 3, okay? So if I look at the number 96, we're going to look at the digits first and see, is it divisible by 3? Okay, so the rule for 3 was you are going to add the numbers 9 plus 6. And 9 plus 6 is 15. Is 15 divisible by 3? Will that work? And we do know it will work because we know that 15 you can divide by 3 and get 5. So then I know 96 is divisible by 3. The other thing I need to look at is what is the end digit. This end digit is an even number. 6 is an even number, so I know my rule for 2 will work. So do I now know that 96 is divisible by 6? It is because, we just click through those. It is because it worked for both of them. So if I take 96 and divide it by 6, 6 will go into 9 once. 6 times 1 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. I'm going to bring down my 6. How many 6's are in 36? Well, I know 6 times 6 is 36. And so my answer is 16. Okay, so now all of our divisibility rules we're looking at. The rule for number 2, a number is divisible by 2 if it ends with an even digit. Remember, even digit is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 0. I should have put the 0 at the front. Those are all even, okay? A number is divisible by 3 if the sum of its digits is divisible by 3. So again, like we just showed, 9 plus 6. We added those together, we got 15. So the number 96 was divisible by 3 because 15 was divisible by 3. That gave me 5. So that one worked, okay? A number is divisible by 5 if it ends in a 5 or a 0. So remember when we're counting 5, 10, 15, 20, they all end either 5 or 0, okay? A number is divisible by 6 if the rule for the 2 and 3 both work for them. And a number is divisible by 10 if it ends with a 0. So counting by 10, 20, 30, 40, those are all divisible by 10. Now we need to figure out, is 1017 divisible by 3? Well, my rule for 3 is if I add my digits together, so if I have 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 7, I add all those together, so I have 7, 8, 9, and then I ask myself, well, is 9 divisible by 3? And 3 times 3 is 9, so yes it is. So now I know that this number 1017 is divisible by 3. So if I wrote this out, 3 times 3 is 9, and I subtract, remembering to regroup, bring down my 11, or my 1, so now I have 11. 3 times 3 again is 9. I'm going to subtract, regroup, 11 take away 9 is 2. I'm going to bring down my 7. Well, I know that 3 times 9 is 27. So when I divide that number by 3, I get 339. So we figured out that we could add up the digits. Yes, we did all that. We found it was divisible by 3. So this is walking you through exactly what we just talked about. So because the sum of the digits was divisible by 3, the number 1017 is also divisible by 3. Now determine whether it's divisible by 6. So 570 is the number we're looking at. Well, remember for 6, I have to do my rule for 2 and my rule for 3. My rule for 2 was, does it end in an even number? Okay, so I'm going to look at 570. Is the 0 even? And it is. So yep, it's divisible by 2. Now my rule for 3 was the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So if I add 5 plus 7 plus 0, I get 12. And if I think about it, 12 divided by 3, will that work? Will 3 go into 12 evenly? And the answer is yes. I get 4. So now I know 570 is divisible by 6. 6 will not go into 57, so I have to remember to keep that placeholder there. 6 times 9 is 54. So I have to subtract. 7 take away 4 is 3. Bring down my 0. 6 times 5 is 30. Subtract, and I get 0. So my answer is 95. Okay, so this is just going to walk us through that. 0 is even. Yep. So we knew that. And then we also knew that we added up the digits. We got a number that was divisible by 3. 12 was divisible by 3. So then we knew that 6 would go into 570.